half-life of coffee is 6 hours. That means when you have your last cup of coffee, it stays in your blood. The half of it stays in your blood for 6 hours. And let's say you're sleeping at 10 or 11 in the night, or even 9, then you have to reduce it even further. You have to give yourself 6 hours for the half-life and 1 or 2 hours to fall asleep. So that's how you test your coffee. Here's how I make my coffee, in case you're wondering. This is the cacao. This 100% organic cacao here. It comes in a powder. I have salt, which is called as the Celtic salt. It is a salt salt can do a lot of hydration properties, but a normal table salt or Himalayan pink salt doesn't do the trick because it's full of microplastics, and you don't want all those microplastics coming into your body. So, yes, it's full of. And so what I do is I use Celtic salt, Celtic salt or Celtic salt. This CELTIC. Then I have a potent Korean red ginseng powder. Okay. Then I use some coconut oil. I have some cinnamon. I have those medium chain triglycerides. What I do normally is I don't take a lot of L-theanine unless I'm traveling. But when I'm at home, a similar compound as L-theanine is the Indian herb called tulsi. So if you have tulsi with your coffee, it does the same thing. I have curcumin. That's a curcumin. It's not a turmeric powder. Turmeric and curcumin is something completely, it's similar, but curcumin is a very potent form of what goes inside turmeric. So I have curcumin. I have collagen, because collagen does a lot of things in your body, but it takes about 7 years of continuously supplementing collagen to only replace half of the collagen in your body. So I make sure I take collagen every day. Then I have some grass-fed butter, which is very high in nutrients, and it doesn't have all those antibiotics that get to the cows. Then the next thing I have is some, like any form of chili. So if you have anything spicy, it boosts nitric oxide in your body as well. So when you combine all these things, mix them up, it will cross the blood-brain barrier, and it also allows a lot of blood flow in your brain. So you get everything after that. It's like, has anyone seen one of these movies where they take this drink and every part of their brain starts getting active? So all these things have that kind of an effect.
Can we get this recipe?
Yeah, sure. You can take a picture of it.
It's not very clear.
After this, I'll tell it to you. So self-quantification. If you want to get more insights about your biology and everything that happens to your body, you have to get data. Big data can give you information about yourself, not only just right now, but a year back, how you were and how you're progressing. So every experiment that you do, you have to compare it with the data that you have. Has it affected my sleep levels? Has it affected my cognition levels? Has it affected my breathing rate? There are many self-quantification devices in the market. So you have the Apple Watch, you have a Fitbit. What I use is something called as the Oura Ring. So this is a medical grade sleep tracker device, which measures this is my data. So it measures my previous day's activity. It tells me, is it good or bad? It measures my body temperature. So if I eat something and my body temperature changes a lot, I know that this has an inflammatory response I have an inflammatory response to such food. So I keep monitoring that. Then how good am I recovering? Or how low is my resting heart rate? I see these patterns, and I see something called as heart rate variability. So in a perfect scenario, when you think your heart is beating, let's say, 60 beats per minute, it's not beating 1 beat every second. What it is doing is it beats maybe 0.65 and then 2.22 per second. So a healthy heart rate, and it's not stable, so it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. But why I measure heart rate variability is to get to know my autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system is split into two, sympathetic and parasympathetic, which basically is how active you are or how stressed you are. Every morning when I get up, I get to understand both chains of my parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So if I wake up, my ring and my data tells me you are very stressed, probably you haven't slept properly at night, or you've had food which is having a lot of effect on your central nervous system, and this is how I plan my day. So if I get a low rating on my heart rate variability, I wouldn't go to the gym, or I wouldn't do something that really taxes my nervous system because I know my nervous system isn't ready for it. And now we have this kind of a data which we can test every day. Second thing is your sleep. I think sleep is one of the most underlooked health phenomena in the world, because out of everything, we could talk about sleep for hours, but let me give you some of the most important things. When you're sleeping, there is something called as the lymphatic drainage system in your mind. What that means is, during the day, because of all the stress and all the activities that you have, there are these degraded proteins. The most famous one is amyloid beta, and that plaque attaches to the neurons in your brain. What does amyloid beta translate into? Alzheimer's. If you have Alzheimer's, chances are you have a large amount of amyloid beta plaques in your brain, which is affecting your neural tissues. But when you're sleeping, what happens is your body, first thing, which is fascinating, is your brain cells shrink up to 60%. They shrink up to 60% to allow a fluid to pass through and wash all the amyloid beta and other degraded proteins. This is called a clear cerebral spinal fluid. And this reacts with certain special cells in your brain called the glia cells, and this helps wash all the neurotoxins away. So if you're not sleeping as much, all these plaques are going to be, those neurological toxins will never be flushed out. And now they say that dementia and Alzheimer's can be recognized up to 2 decades ago. Because if you're not sleeping enough when you're young, you have a higher risk of having Alzheimer's when you reach a certain age. So Alzheimer's, dementia, all of these neuroprotective diseases all happen because of lack of sleep or lack of good sleep. When I say sleep, it is a bit complicated. It is not just how much time you're laying in bed, but it is split into different platforms, which is how much of REM sleep are you getting, how much of deep sleep are you getting, your sleep efficiency, your restfulness, your latency, total sleep, and sleep timing. So you could go to sleep one day and be like, wow, I've woken up after 8 hours, but you don't really know how many times have you woken up in the night. Have you gone through your deep sleep cycles, because that's where the lymphatic system occurs, or are you the days where I feel like I have been well rested? That's some of the days where my deep sleep levels are the lowest. And because of having this data on myself, I can prepare for the day that's coming in, and I tell myself, okay, I haven't got enough deep sleep last night, let me do it today.
What about afternoon siestas?
Afternoon siestas are really good, if you can keep it to about 26 minutes to be precise. Yes, because NASA has done a study, and they've seen that 26 minutes of power nap can increase your focus.
27.
1 hour.
2 hours, 3
Alright.
hours. 27, 26.
You can sleep for as long as you can, but the minimum effective dose is 26 minutes. Sorry?
The 26 minutes of blood circulation.
26 minutes is the adequate amount of time your mind and body takes. Okay.
But if people are interested to sit, you guys are happy to sit?
Can I just answer these questions later? Because trust me, I have a lot of things on this presentation that I really want to go through, because I think you'll get a lot of value with the information that's coming up.
Let's go.
Steps is something that I think everyone should count. If you can have about 10,000 steps a day, it gives you, I don't say count calories or count macronutrients, because they are affected by how much oxygen you're breathing, how much carbon dioxide you're breathing out, a lot of other things. But a good measurement would be how many steps you take. I would say anything between 5,000 to 10,000 steps is a good goal to achieve. Now, neurotransmitters, like we spoke about before, is really important. I wouldn't go into details of a lot of this, but you have to understand your neurotransmitters in order to get in or get out of a certain mood. So let's say serotonin. If you think you're getting depressed or you're having thoughts of anxiety or depression, chances are that your serotonin levels are low. What can you do? Try to find foods with L-tryptophan, which is an amino acid. And when you have abundance of L-tryptophan in your system, your serotonin increases. Dopamine, the reward function of the... Can we answer it later? You can just research it online because there is a lot of turkeys, almonds, there are many things. L-tryptophan is what you need to remember. Can I do it later? Inhibitory neurotransmitters, something as gamma-aminobutyric acid. If you think you cannot sleep and your brain is going hyperactive, what you can do is to get some L-glutamine. I will discuss this later. L-glutamine, and it will fix most of the issues. Dopamine is the reward and the pleasure centers of your brain. If you think you're not feeling motivated and not feeling rewarded enough, what you can do is combine 3 amino acids, L-phenylalanine, sunlight, and L-tryptophan. When you combine all of these things, dopamine level rises. And a lot of us are we're very imbalanced in the type of neurotransmitters that we have. So I would encourage you to go online and look at this excellent test by Dr. Eric Braveman. It's called the Edge Effect Test. You must have a lot of patience for that because it's a long test, but at the end of it, it will give you an exact idea of which neurotransmitters you're lacking and which neurotransmitters you must go to achieve. The Edge Effect. Effect by Dr. Braveman. So, cold exposure.
Is it a book?
It is a test you can do online.
It's an online. It's not a.
So the edgeeffect.com will give you that test. Now, cold exposure. When we like to be in like warm environments and not be exposed to a lot of cold, but cold does something to our biology. Our ancestors have always been experiencing cold in very different situations. And what cold can do is phenomenal. So I find many times of the day, I try to like expose myself to like cold temperatures, which I do by having either cold showers or having a shower tub full of ice and just getting into cold immersions.
Yeah.
Now, AC is, so you have to, what it does is it creates a hormetic response. So when you're exposed to so much cold that your body cannot handle, the mitochondria in your cells, they start getting like stressed. And if they cannot handle that stress, they have been instructed to commit suicide or die. When they die, you build even more stress, because if you cannot handle that amount of stress, which is a hormetic stress, you don't deserve to live. That's how our biology operates. Then you have new mitochondria, which are young, which can take that amount of stress. So for me to increase my mitochondrial density, I regularly expose myself to cold. There's also something called as brown fat, which is a metabolically active form of fat which increases in your body. The purpose of brown fat is that it creates heat in your body by mitochondria uncoupling. And what it does is it burns all your white fat away. So if you want to start burning fat, just expose yourself to extreme cold temperatures for a certain amount of time. It also activates adiponectin, which reduces your blood glucose and uses that energy to be burned as like within carbs or proteins or fats. So it's just a good hormone to have. Now, when I was hanging out with a lot of free drivers about a few years ago, I discovered this trick. And it's basically, free drivers experience this a lot when they dive into the water. But then I asked myself some questions and I tried to reproduce the same results of diving into the water, but doing it in my toilet. So what I did was filling a bucket full of ice water, and putting my face into it. What happens is this biohack works because when you put your face under the water, your body starts thinking that you're going to dive into a water, and it starts the same biochemical processes as diving into the water. Let's have a look. It's called the mammalian dive effect. So 3 principles that I personally use is for, first thing, there is about, if your body has 1,000 mitochondria per cell, your brain has 10 to 20,000 mitochondria. So it's a very energy dense environment. I put I put my head into it because the mitochondria in my brain get stressed, and then they produce even stronger mitochondria. This is just a way of tricking your body. Then is something called as bryocardia, which is the slowing down of heart rate. When you put your face, if you're facing some anxiety or if you want to sleep properly, it's very important that your heart rate reduces. So what you do is put your face under the water for some time. It could be for a minute. And in a way to preserve all the oxygen, your heart rate decreases. And if you go to sleep with a lower heart rate, you go into all the stages of sleep even faster. The second thing is peripheral vasoconstriction and blood shift. So when you put your face into the water and your body feels like it is going to jump into the water, it takes away blood from all your extremities, which are the non-essential parts of your body, hands, feet, legs, and they shuttle all that blood to the essential parts of your body for survival, which is the heart, kidneys, organs. And I do this after I've had like a good and nutritious meal, because I know at this point I want to direct all the nutrients to my organs. This is a trick that I use the most. And the spleen effect. Spleen effect is every time you trick your body into diving, the spleen contracts and it releases more red blood cells. And when it releases more blood cells, you are able to absorb even more amount of oxygen from the air than you were used to. And your oxygen delivery mechanism increases. So that's a trick that I use every couple of days just to work on those mechanisms. The next thing is cryotherapy. This is a form of self-induced hormesis where I get locked into a chamber and it usually goes up to minus 200 degrees. Yes, for about 3 to 4 minutes. No, it's like a minus 200. So it activates all these responses, these ancestral responses of surviving from cold, and it just makes you much more stronger. It doesn't work.
CJ, having a cold shower before you sleep compared to having a hot shower before you sleep is better, no?
I feel that if you have a cold shower before you sleep, it's much better because when you're going to sleep, your body automatically drops the body temperature. So if you are not able to drop that kind of body temperature because you've eaten probably too early to bed, one of the biohacks that you can do is to have a cold shower. This way, yes, and the blood will go into all of your extremities. Then your body temperature just decreases by itself and you sleep even more deeper. So as compared to hot showers increases your body temperature, doesn't get you through, it might put you to sleep, but you will not go through all those stages. So it's much better to sleep in a very cold environment. Here are some of the benefits of going into a cryo chamber. And if you ever go into one, like one of the tricks that most people don't know is that you have to put your head inside because a lot of nutrients can cross the blood-brain barrier when your head is submerged under the water, under any cold temperature, and the neurons in your brain will fire faster. So most of the people, they'll keep your head outside, but try to go inside for a little bit. It really helps. So these are the mechanisms of how cold exposure works. The first thing is BAT, which is brown adipose tissue. The second thing is cell longevity. Your cells become more resilient, and they block something called as the mTOR, which is the mammalian target of rapamycin pathway. Your immune system, interleukin-6, peptide YY, IL-1A, all of these factors increase, and the adiponectin starts off in your body. You can have a picture of this later. So an average person breathes about 20,000 breaths per day. But the most easiest biohack to get yourself out of any mood or anxiety or depression is just by controlling how you breathe. And today, I'm going to teach you one of the tricks that we've learned from Navy SEALs and from Marine Corps, which are, these guys are always going into environments which is very unpredictable and their life's at stake. And like everyone, they get scared as well. So this is the trick that they use to calm themselves down. It's called box breathing. What you have to do is inhale for 4 seconds. Every time you're stressed, every time you're nervous, every time you're going to step into something unfamiliar, take a deep breath for 4 seconds. So you take a deep breath for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold for 4 seconds. You make it like a box. So you can do it 4, 6, 8, however better you are. Or another trick is a 4-7-8 breathing. You inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 7 seconds, and hold for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. 4-7-8. So every time you feel very nervous and stressful, try this trick.
Exhale from the mouth, is it? Or
Yes, inhale from the nose,
and exhale
from the mouth.
from the mouth. Exhale from the mouth.
Yes. Yes, exhale from the mouth.
Exhale from the mouth, inhale from the mouth.
Because what happens is when you're exhaling, right, your lungs, they contract in a certain way. They extend and they contract. But what happens is there is a certain release of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter that slows your heartbeat down. So you become more calm and relaxed. That's how it works. This trick I got from a study from NASA in the 1980s. So in 1980s, they did a study in NASA where they compared athletes which were running and athletes who were jumping on a trampoline. What they found out that when you jump on a trampoline only for 20 minutes a day, you're not stressing out your knees, ankles, and feet, which happens a lot when you are running, and that kind of puts you in place for a lot of injuries in the future. But the weight distribution is so equal that you don't get any stress on your joints, so it's very good for your joint health. And NASA even came up with the conclusion that the oxygen reuptake in the cells were the same. So if you compare running versus running outside and having a mini trampoline in your house and just jumping 15 to 20 minutes on it, the efficiency is 68 times more efficient. So this is a cool trick if you want to have. Oh, also, for every kg of body weight which you're overweight, you extend about 4 kgs of pressure on your knees. So if, let's say, you're 10 kgs overweight for your age, that is 40 kgs of pressure on your knees and joints. And what happens is fractures are very common when things like this happen, especially as you get old. It affects 9 million people, no, 200 million people, 9 million fractures per year. That's an average. And 68% more efficient. So we spoke about sunlight, right? But I have biohacked that as well. So now I have a device which is known as, or the therapy is known as a red light therapy, where I get red light precisely at 650 nanometers and infrared light at 850 nanometers. And these lights shoot up into my skin cells and start. Red light has a lot of benefits because it reduces inflammation, it increases your decreases salivary cortisol, it increases your muscle, reduces fat, and is also good for blood flow in your brain. Infrared light, on the other hand, is so deep, it's an invisible spectrum of light which you can get from sun, but you have to stand a long time in the sun to get that. But when infrared light enters your body, it penetrates deep into your skeletal muscles, it penetrates into your mitochondria, and it helps them produce more energy. How much time are we talking about with this? So with my biohacking, I've saved 15 minutes of this allows me it is equivalent to more than 2 hours of standing under the sunlight without wearing anything. So that's the kind of energy production that I get. So this is a cool biohack if you want to try it in any of the wellness centers, if you have any one in India.
So this apparatus is 15 minutes gives you that infrared also.
Yes, so it gives red and infrared both. So red, with infrared, it pushes the red light into your musculoskeletal systems as well. And it increases the ATP formation in the mitochondria.
We have any centers here that do.
I wouldn't know because I don't live here, but you
But you can have that infrared light. The lamp.
yes, you can if you have one.
Yeah.
For me, I use the whole body therapy. So this is my kind of thing. But if you have
Small portable one.
yeah, but you have to be careful on the EMF that it has. Look at the EMF and see what nanometer is it at. Because if you move away from these nanometers, it can cause like oxidative stress. And a good time is about, depending on the power of the device. So there's a lot of things that might be taken into consideration. Hyperbaric oxygen chamber. This is another thing that I use. So I get locked into this cylinder with oxygen, which is 2 times the atmospheric pressure, and allows my skin and my cells to absorb oxygen, which is 15 times more than I get in the air. This has a lot of benefits, which are, it increases your mitochondrial production. Every time I'm injured, I go and I use this. It boosts my immunity, improves mental clarity, and so on. A whole body vibration device. So what happens is, this is a trick I also got from one of the, not from NASA, but from the Russians. So in the 1960s, the Russians were very keen to get into the space, but one of the problems the Russians faced was that all the astronauts were losing a dense amount of muscle while they were in space, which is called as muscle atrophy. To combat that, 30 years later, they came up with a solution, and they told the world that we use a whole body vibration device. What a whole body vibration device does is, what it does is it contracts and extends every cell in your body from 25 to 50 times per second. This one is the one that I use. It contracts up to 99 times. So it's 99 times per second. Every cell of your body is like moving. And that mimics exercise in a way. So when I don't have much time to exercise, and after getting this trick, we can look at something which is the Newton's second law of motion, which is force equals mass time acceleration, right? Normally, if you go to the gym or if you're working out, you're using the same equation, but the mass is the amount of weight that you add on yourself, and the acceleration is the gravity. With the whole body vibration device, it's even a much more efficient way to use acceleration as vibration, not as gravity. So you don't have to put any weight. You can only be on your body weight, and the effect is 15 minutes of doing this is equal to 1 or 1.5 hours of working out in the gym. So this is one of those other biohacks that I use. Nootropics. Has anyone seen the 2011 movie called Limitless?
Yes.
Okay, so nootropics are basically these compounds. They can be synthetic or they can be natural. But when you use them, they light up your brain, and they provide immense amount of energy and clarity and focus to your brain. Now, there are so many nootropics in the world, but I'd like to share, one of the nootropics is coffee, because of the way caffeine metabolism works and how much energy it gives you. One of the other ones that I would like to say is nicotine. Well, when I say nicotine, I don't say smoking, because nicotine is one of the 5,000 chemicals which is in a cigarette. And what nicotine does is it activates the mesolimbic dopamine system in your brain. And unlike coffee, it has its own receptor. Coffee binds to adenosine receptors, but nicotine has its own nicotine receptors. And it can give you, microdosing on nicotine can give you a lot of mental clarity for the days that you need it. Well, I say microdosing, any cigarette would have about 8 to 20 mg of nicotine with the tar and other things that you don't want. But if you find a nicotine gum or a nicotine liquid, you can microdose on 1 mg, which is 1/4 or even less of the ones that you find in cigarettes, and it lights up your brain. So it gives you more focus, more energy. Creatine, a lot of people have been studying creatine for use in sports and athletic performance, but creatine does something in the brain as well. Well, coffee only tells you that coffee doesn't provide you with any energy. It just charges you up. You don't really get any physical energy. But creatine, it allows more energy to be stored in every molecule in your brain. So you can use literally more energy for everything that you do. Another reason why I like creatine is because it improves not only your memory, recall timing, focus, but it also improves your reasoning skills, which a lot of these drugs don't have. Having good memory is okay, but having the logical reasoning to apply that memory is even more important. Modafinil is a drug very common in students. It's a neurogenic drug. That means it can keep you awake for 12 or 14 hours when you take it. And it's also been associated with higher brain function and executive learning. So if you want to learn something and sit for a long time doing it, taking something like this will actually access the pathways in your brain to store more information. Binaural Beats, this is a sound wave therapy where you listen to two very similar but two different hertz of music at the same time. So let's say in your right ear, you will be hearing 510 hertz, and in your left ear, you will be hearing 500 hertz. The difference between them is 10 hertz, which your brain absorbs and tells and synchronizes its brain pattern towards. There are various kind of patterns. Delta, like delta is with deep sleep, theta is with REM sleep and creativity, alpha is with meditation. So every time I meditate, I set these binaural beats to a frequency where they can convert my brain into alpha waves. Then is the beta waves, and beta waves is most of the times, like right now we are having a beta wave, which is anywhere from 14 hertz to 25 hertz. But when you want to super drive your performance and you want to focus on something completely, you have to look at gamma waves, which is 25 hertz and above. So once you understand how binaural beat works, you can literally listen to music for 15 minutes and change your brain's wave according to your liking. Neurofeedback, this is machine learning, where you can get information from a machine on how your brain acts. What I do is, I love meditating, but I would like to biohack meditating as well. So I have this device which gives me real-time audio feedback on how my brain is changing into an alpha wave pattern. If you're meditating, you would want to be into an alpha wave. And with the help of neurofeedback, I've trained my brain to get into alpha waves as soon as possible. Just as an information, if you're a monk in Tibet, this normally takes you 5 to 10 years. But with neurofeedback, you can do it within a few months. Okay, anti-aging. This, as I promised, I'm a big fan, and I've been exploring anti-aging for a long time now. And I'm very interested in pathways and ways how can you increase your longevity. Because living for a long time doesn't matter so much if you're not living your optimal life. Your health span and your lifespan should be extended. I would technically want to live for 150 years. I've committed to live 150 years. But I don't want to live 150 years where I go outside and forget my keys in the freezer. You know, something like that. So I want to have an active brain, an active body until 150. So in my efforts to do that, I'm trying to read and understand every literature that there is to anti-aging. And now we don't have much time, but I'm going to quickly run you through. We're quickly going to run you through some really fast techniques that I've discovered from all the blue zones and for pharmacology. So one thing that you can take in terms of medicine, let's go to the synthetic compounds. Medicine, rapamycin, because this battles aging this is a prescribed medicine, so you have to ask your doctor to give it to you. But all the anti-aging clinics in the world are being using rapamycin. I don't use it at this point because I'm an athlete as well, and this reduces your immunity up to 2 to 3%. So I don't want my immunity to be reduced at this point. But when you're at a certain age, the cons outweigh the benefits. And it acts on a certain pathway called as mTOR. The second one is ketones. So we've spoken about ketones, and your body generates a lot of ketones by itself, right? But there's a trick to it. You can have artificial ketones now, which get into your body as salts or ketone esters, and they're caloric restriction mimetics. So even if you're eating, it's going to send your body, it fools your body to think that you're fasting. And all the it starts all the pathways of fasting. And we've seen from fruit flies to mice to humans and into chimps that caloric restriction will increase your lifespan. Metformin, this is the most common drug given to diabetes. And metformin, what it does is it accelerates, it doesn't accelerate aging exactly, but it increases your lifespan and health span in a way that it reduces glycemic variability. I think glycemic variability is one of the keys to everything. So when you have metformin, and it is easily available, it's on the countertop medicine, it decreases your blood sugar response to most of the things. Now, these are the drugs these are the supplement forms. But what you can do naturally which I've learned from all the blue zones around the world, from the Katawans and the Okinawans in Japan to the Icarians in Greece. They've all been using this. One is, someone mentioned before, apple cider vinegar, Ceylon cinnamon. This will reduce your blood sugar response after a meal.
After a meal,
Yes.
you got to have that after a meal.
Yes, you can have it with the meal as well, but your postprandial sugar levels will go down if you have this.
Apple cider vinegar being sour doesn't if you have bone pains or some kind of
It doesn't affect it.
doesn't affect.
The second word is berberine. Now, the picture is of a supplement, but if you can get berberine in its natural form, it's better. The last is bitter melon extract. So if you can get bitter melon, it will help you reduce your glycemic variability a lot. Over here, you have Karela, right? So if you use that,
But you're talking of all this for diabetes.
no, it's to reduce your glycemic variability.
Okay.
Because if your glycemic variability increases every day, you have more chances of getting diabetes. You will age faster. The autophagy in your neurons don't happen. So, bitter melon extract. Bitter melon. So, sirtuins, when we cannot start talking about longevity by understanding specific enzymes in the body, which is sirtuins. There are different kind of sirtuins. These are a family of proteins which, when activated, extend the lifespan in humans and in other mammals. So now I would like to talk about some sirtuin activating compounds. So there's something called as Phisin, which is a specific compound that activates these certain sirtuins in your body. Here are all the things that you can get Phisin from. And all these compounds are the most powerful ones that you can get out there. The second thing is quercetin. And all of those things, if you have those enough, or you can supplement if you want more. If you're up above a certain age.
Leafy vegetables, broccoli. Just read it, the list quickly.
Yeah, leafy vegetables, broccoli, red onions, peppers, black tea, green tea, red wine. So those mitochondria that I spoke about before, so they're so important, and I cannot stress the importance of the mitochondria, because you can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, but if your mitochondria don't work for 3 seconds, you will die. Every system in your body will shut. They're producing over 90% of those energy. And what you can do to support your mitochondria will affect your longevity pathways as well. First thing is called the fountain of youth, NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. This is something which you can supplement with, and is a very important molecule which goes into the energy metabolism and increases your mitochondrial diversity. Then is MitoQ, something that you can combine with the NAD. And PQQ. When you have a stack of all these three things, your mitochondria have all the raw materials that they need to produce so much energy that even at 80 or 90 you will be running. Sorry?
What quantities do you have?
It depends on your age, it depends on your weight, it depends on your height, so it depends. You have to mix and match them perfectly. The other thing would help you live a long time is glutathione. Is one of the most powerful antioxidants in your body. And these compounds, there are some compounds that can activate the glutathione membrane activation. So when you go home, look for how to increase glutathione. When we talk about red wine, when we say that red wine has so many antioxidants and it can help us a lot, we're actually talking about a specific compound called Reservatrol. And the amount of Reservatrol in red wine is not as much as you think. So if you really want to take advantage of Reservatrol, you have to supplement it, because on wine it's not that much. But let me introduce you to a lesser known cousin of Reservatrol, pyrrolystirolene. This specific thing is in some berries, and it is much, much more powerful than Reservatrol found in red wines. How much? About 100 times more powerful. So if you're going for Reservatrol, skip the Reservatrol, choose the cousin. This will extend your longevity pathways. The best biohack I've found is gratitude, because gratitude affects a lot of systems in your body. We are now uncovering how much it affects you. Neurologically, it can help you improve your reasoning skills. It can help increase motor coordination. It could, every time you experience gratitude or you say that you're thankful for something, with functional magnetic resonance imaging, which is an fMRI, you can scan your brain, and you know which pathways of your brain light up? The ones which are connected to socializing and emotional resilience. So gratitude even makes you more stronger emotionally and helps you connect better with people. In your prefrontal cortex, there's a lot of activities which determine everything that you do, from learning to creativity. Also, when you're grateful, just like the exercise that I showed you before, when you're grateful to your body, the mitochondria, which are 1 quadrillion and 100 trillion bacterial organisms, think that the world out there is safe for them to thrive on. And the more you keep reminding yourself that there's not a building that's coming down or a tiger that's chasing you, every function in your body will start to thrive. And we see this over and over again because a lot of diseases have been reduced or reversed. C-reactive protein, which is a biomarker of inflammation, hemoglobin H1AC, all these things reduce every time you feel grateful. So with this, I'd like to end my talk, and I would like to extend my gratitude to all of you who've been staying for some time. And the thing is, I know some of you heard some information, some of you heard the other, and I hope you find some of these information useful in your journey to increasing your health. But if you could do me one favor, it would be that after you leave this room, and if you can remember anything out of this presentation, please go out there and share. I'm trying to connect to as many people because my purpose in life is in a way related to enhancing other people's lives. And I cannot do it by myself. So if you've learned anything today, please go and share it with your husbands, wives, kids, and see how it can impact them. And thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be ready to answer them.